There is something we often overlook when we talk about respect. We assume it is something people give us. But if you reflect deeply, you'll realize that respect is not something that begins with others. It begins with you. It begins with how you see yourself when no one is watching, how you speak to yourself in moments of silence, and how conscious you are of your own worth in the sight of Allah. You see, your value was never meant to be negotiated in the hands of people. People are inconsistent. Their opinions change with moods, with benefit, with convenience. One day they praise you, the next day they overlook you. If your sense of worth is tied to that, then you will always feel unstable, always searching, always needing validation. And that is an exhausting way to live. From an Islamic perspective, your worth is Arabic, that Arabic Khalif Arabic, by Arabic ta. It is Arabic, that Arabic Khalif Arabic, by Arabic ta, because it comes from the one who created you. Allah did not create you randomly. He honored you, gave you intellect, gave you a soul, gave you the ability to choose right from wrong. When you forget that, you begin to accept less than what you deserve, not in terms of arrogance, but in terms of dignity. Psychologically, when a person remains in an environment where they are constantly disrespected, something begins to shift inside them. At first it hurts, then they question it, then they start to normalize it, and eventually they internalize it. They begin to believe that maybe this is all they deserve. This is how self-worth erodes not suddenly, but gradually, quietly, almost invisibly. And this is where the danger lies, because once your internal standard drops, the external world adjusts to it. People treat you based on the signals you give, not just the words you say. If you carry yourself with a sense of Arabic, Alf Arabic, Yet Arabic, Mim Arabic Tet, Ma'but, a sense of dignity, even your silence speaks. But if you constantly tolerate being diminished, overlooked, or disrespected, you unintentionally tell others that this behavior is acceptable. Now, this doesn't mean you walk around demanding respect from everyone. That's not the point. Respect is not about ego. It's about recognizing that Allah did not create you to be humiliated or belittled. There is a difference between humility and self-neglect. Humility is knowing your place before Allah. Self-neglect is allowing others to erase your value. Sometimes people stay in disrespectful environments because they fear losing relationships, losing comfort, or even losing identity. But what is the cost if staying somewhere slowly breaks your Arabic? Rot Arabic, wow Arabic, het your inner peace, your connection with Allah. Then what are you really holding on to? And more importantly, what are you losing in the process? You are not asked to prove your worth to people. You are asked to recognize it yourself. And when you truly understand that your value comes from Allah, something changes. You stop chasing validation. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop staying in places that require you to shrink in order to belong. Because deep down you know, if Allah has honored you, no one has the right to dishonor you, and that realization is powerful. It doesn't make you arrogant, it makes you grounded. It gives you clarity. It gives you the courage to step back from environments that drain you and to move towards spaces that align with your dignity. So remember this. The moment you forget your worth, the world will decide it for you. But the moment you remember who you are in the sight of Allah, you will never again settle for being treated like you are less. There is a subtle misunderstanding that many people carry, especially when they are trying to be patient and faithful. They begin to believe that every form of hardship must be endured indefinitely. They convince themselves that staying in a place where they are constantly disrespected is a sign of strength, a sign of sabr. But the truth is, not every situation you face is meant to be tolerated forever. Some situations are not tests of endurance, they are signs for redirection. You see, Patience in Islam is not passive suffering. It is active awareness. It is the ability to respond with wisdom, not just to endure with silence. There is a difference between Arabic, Ta Arabic, Het Arabic, Meme Arabic, Lam enduring with purpose, and Arabic, Ta Arabic, Het Arabic, Meme Arabic, Lam Arabic, Ba Arabic, Lam Arabic, Alif Arabic, Het Arabic, Dal Arabic, Waw Arabic, Dal enduring without boundaries. When disrespect becomes consistent, when it becomes a pattern rather than an exception, it is no longer just a moment to be patient through. It becomes a message you are meant to understand. Psychologically, the human mind tries to make sense of repeated experiences. If you are repeatedly placed in situations where you are belittled, ignored, or made to feel insignificant, your mind begins to search for explanations. At first, you might blame the situation, then you might excuse the people. But eventually, if nothing changes, you start questioning yourself. Maybe I'm overreacting, maybe I deserve this, and that is where the real damage begins, not in what others say or do, but in how you start to interpret it internally. This is why it is so important to recognize disrespect as a signal. It is a form of feedback, not necessarily about your worth, but about your environment. Not every place is meant for you, not every person is meant to stay in your life, and not every door that remains open is one you are meant to walk through. There is also a spiritual dimension to this. Allah has given you intellect, discernment, and the ability to choose. If every harmful situation was meant to be endured without question, then why give you the ability to recognize harm in the first place? Why place that discomfort in your heart when something feels wrong? That discomfort is not Arabic, Daida Arabic, Teen Arabic, vow weakness. It is awareness. It is a form of guidance. Strength in this context is not just about Arabic, Ta Arabic, Het Arabic, Meme Arabic, Lam. It is about timing. Knowing when to be silent and knowing when silence becomes self-harm. Knowing when to forgive and knowing when distance is necessary. Knowing when to stay and knowing when leaving is the wiser choice. Many people delay this realization because they are afraid of what comes next. Walking away is uncertain, it disrupts comfort, it forces you to confront change. So instead, they remain where they are, convincing themselves that they are being patient, when in reality, they are simply postponing a decision they already know they need to make. But the longer you ignore the sign, the louder it becomes. What starts as a small discomfort turns into emotional exhaustion. What begins as occasional disrespect becomes normalized behavior, and by the time you recognize it fully, you are already drained. This is why clarity is so important. You have to ask yourself honestly, is this a moment I am meant to grow through, or is this a place I am meant to outgrow? Because those are two very different things. Growth challenges you, but it does not strip you of your dignity. A wrong environment, on the other hand, slowly erases it, and once you understand this, your perspective shifts. You no longer see leaving as giving up. You begin to see it as responding to a sign, as choosing alignment over attachment, as choosing Arabic, Seen Arabic, Lam Arabic, Alif Arabic, Meme Arabic Tai, your well-being over silent suffering. So reflect on this deeply. Not every pain is a test of how long you can stay. Some pains are a signal that it's time to move. There is a reality about human behavior that is uncomfortable, but necessary to understand. People often treat you not based on what you deserve, but based on what you consistently allow. This is not always intentional, and it is not always malicious, but it is real. The way you respond to disrespect, especially when you say nothing, quietly teaches others what is acceptable. Now, silence in itself is not a weakness. There are moments where silence is Arabic, Alf Arabic, Waw Arabic, Tet Mabut, where it reflects restraint, wisdom, and emotional control. But there is also a type of silence that is rooted in fear, in avoidance, in the desire to keep peace at any cost. And over time, that kind of silence becomes a language of its own. It communicates something, even if you never say a word. When someone crosses a line and there is no response, no boundary, no shift in your behavior, they begin to assume that the line was never there to begin with. The first time may be accidental, the second time becomes easier, by the third or fourth time it becomes a pattern. Not because they are necessarily cruel, but because human beings adapt to what is permitted. Psychologically, this is tied to reinforcement. Behavior that is not challenged tends to repeat itself. If there are no consequences, no emotional withdrawal, no clear communication, no distancing, then there is no reason for the behavior to change. And so, without realizing it, you become part of the cycle that continues to hurt you. This is why boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about defining yourself. A boundary is a quiet declaration. This is where I stand. This is what I will accept. And this is what I will not. It does not require shouting. It does not require confrontation in every situation. Sometimes the most powerful boundary is a shift in how available you are, how much you engage, how much access you allow someone to have to your time, your energy, and your emotional space. From a deeper perspective, boundaries are a reflection of self-awareness. When you know your worth, as we spoke about earlier, you begin to recognize when that worth is being compromised. And when you recognize it, you cannot ignore it without creating internal conflict. That discomfort you feel when you are disrespected but say nothing, that is not weakness. That is your conscience telling you that something is misaligned. However, many people override that feeling. They tell themselves it's not a big deal, they minimize it, they justify the other person's behavior. They say, it's okay, I'll just let it go. And sometimes letting go is the right choice, but when letting go becomes a habit in situations where respect is repeatedly violated, it stops being forgiveness and starts becoming self-neglect. There is also a fear that often holds people back from setting boundaries, the fear of losing others. The fear that if they speak up, if they pull back, if they change their behavior, people might leave. But what must be understood is this: any relationship that depends on your silence in the face of disrespect is not a relationship built on respect to begin with. It is built on convenience, and when you begin to shift even slightly, you will notice something. Some people will adjust. They will recognize the change and respond with more respect. Others will resist. They may question you, challenge you, or even distance themselves. But in both cases, you gain clarity. You see who values you beyond your silence and who only valued your Arabic. Deen Arabic, Dal Arabic, Mim Arabic, Alif Arabic. Deen Arabic, Ta Arabic, Rot Arabic, Alif Arabic, Daidal. Your lack of objection. This is not about becoming harsh or unapproachable. It is about becoming clear. Clear in your standards, clear in your responses, and clear in your sense of self. Because when you are clear, your presence carries a different weight. People may not always agree with you, but they understand you. And once that understanding is established, respect begins to follow, not because you demanded it, but because you demonstrated it to yourself first. So remind yourself of this truth. Every time you stay silent in the face of repeated disrespect, you are writing a script for how others will treat you. But the moment you set a boundary, even quietly, you begin to rewrite that script. There comes a point in every person's life where the realization becomes unavoidable. You can no longer stay where your presence is tolerated but not valued. And yet, even when that realization is clear, the decision to walk away feels heavy. It feels like loss. It feels like failure. It feels like you're giving up on something you once believed in. But what if the real loss is not in leaving? What if the real loss is in staying too long? You see, walking away is often misunderstood. People see it as weakness, as an inability to endure, as a lack of loyalty. But in reality, it is one of the most difficult decisions a person can make, because it requires you to go against your own attachments. It requires you to let go of familiarity, even when that familiarity is painful. And most importantly, it requires you to choose long-term peace over short-term comfort. From a psychological perspective, human beings are wired to hold on. Even when something is unhealthy, even when it drains us, we become attached to the known. The mind prefers a painful certainty over an uncertain relief. That is why people remain in environments that diminish them. They are not unaware, they are simply afraid of the unknown that comes with change. But growth has always required movement. You cannot evolve in a space that constantly pulls you back into a smaller version of yourself. If every time you try to rise, you are reminded of your past, your flaws, or made to feel insignificant, then that environment is not nurturing your growth. It is restricting it. And this is where the concept of self-respect becomes real, not just theoretical. Self-respect is not what you say about yourself. It is what you are willing to walk away from. It is easy to talk about dignity, but much harder to act on it when emotions are involved, when history is involved. When people you care about are involved, but understand this clearly, choosing to walk away from disrespect is not an act of arrogance. It is an act of alignment. It is you saying, I recognize my worth, and I will no longer place myself in spaces that contradict it. That decision is not against anyone else. It is for yourself. There is also a deep spiritual dimension to this. When you leave something for the sake of what is right, for the sake of preserving your dignity, your Arabic, Hilif Arabic, Farsi ye Arabic, Meme Arabic, Hilif Arabic, Noon your inner peace. Allah does not overlook that. There is a principle in our faith. Whatever you leave for the sake of Allah, He replaces it with something better. But that replacement does not always come immediately. Sometimes there is a gap, a space where you feel alone, uncertain, even regretful. And that space is a test of its own. Not a test of whether you made the right decision, but a test of whether you trust the one who guided you to make it. Because if you go back simply to escape discomfort, you may return to the very thing that was breaking you. Walking away also brings clarity. It allows you to see things without emotional fog. It helps you recognize patterns you once ignored. It strengthens your sense of self, because you begin to rely less on external validation and more on internal conviction. You start to rebuild not just your environment, but your mindset, and slowly something shifts. The peace you were searching for in people begins to settle within you. The respect you were hoping to receive from others begins to reflect in how you carry yourself, and the strength you thought you didn't have reveals itself through your actions. So don't measure loss by what you leave behind. Measure it by what you regain: your dignity, your clarity, your peace. Because sometimes the most powerful step forward is the one where you finally decide to walk away,